Biohackers Live Show. I'm one of the authors of the Biohacker's Handbook, which is right here. Here is the Russian edition. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's probably something awesome if you want to optimize your health and well-being. I have also on the studio with me Dr. Olli Soviari, who is one of the co-authors of it. How you doing, man?
Good. Back at work after a nice summer.
Yeah.
Still summer here, you know. I'm combining best of the both worlds, so office and nature.
Yeah. So today we are spontaneously streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and we decided to involve you. If you want to have any questions and so on to us, you can go to biohack.to/chat. It will take you to our YouTube stream, and there is a chat right next to it, and we would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Eetu in the studios over there, can you maybe show the chat that it all works fine? Yeah, good. Cool. So we have people over there. If you have any questions, just jump into the chat and we would be happy to answer. There is no particular agenda today. We're just going to be chatting, discussing things, maybe something related to sleep, exercise, nutrition, mind and work, and so on. I want to remind you that we have the Health Hacking Summit coming along. The theme is Biohack Your Work. In that episode, we will be focusing 2 days straight, 31st of August and 1st of September, on how you can optimize your work day from the morning when you wake up to the evening when you go to sleep. And we have I guess over 30 or something speakers joining us. We were supposed to be streaming today and tomorrow, but we postponed that until the end of the month so that we can involve a few more speakers and provide you high quality recordings as well. So I also have with us today the curator of Health Hacking Summit, Alex Asi. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Check.
Okay, now we can see you also.
Nice.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Good, thank you. You?
Very good. So last time when we did Health Hacking Summit, it was about the pandemics. Now things have, I guess, normalized a little bit, that people get used to all of this stuff and we have to move on. We all have to move on and we have to look how to get things done despite the changed situation. And that's why we focus on work in our next event. So how has, these times we live in treated you? I mean, you have had a lot of time to talk to some of the amazing speakers who are coming live on our next Health Hacking Summit.
Yeah, exactly. And the main thing, zooming out a little bit, was when we were discussing, and what I'm trying to share with all the audiences, is that we were originally planning on doing it about remote work, and then we decided to expand the perspective to work in general. And so to that end, I've been talking with a lot of different, thought leaders in as many different aspects of the work world as possible, from morning routines for peak performance, morning rituals for peak performance, to like virtual reality, how that's going to be affecting our work lives in the near future, and all things in between, different approaches to the organization, how to think about organizations. Like we're all biohackers. You can also hack the organization. There are also very similar principles using thinking of the organization like an organism.
Right, correct. Yeah, it is definitely a time when a lot of organizations need to rethink how they do things. And I saw some statistics that before the pandemic, only 41% of people had actually done remote work. So 59% of people had never done any remote work whatsoever, and suddenly everyone has to somehow figure out how to do this in the middle of a family or in the middle of whatever their lives patterns used to be. And that is a big change. And there is this saying going on that the biggest driver of digitalization in organizations was not really the CEO or the CIO, kind of the chief information officer, or anyone in the top of the company, or CTO, the technology officer, but it was COVID-19 that actually is driving digitalization in companies. And I've had a lot of webinars that I've done this spring, this summer, and I'm really longing for, face-to-face interaction. And that's why we are having I guess the only big biohacking event, perhaps the only big health event happening in Europe, the Bikers Summit, happening on 16 and 17 of October. If we can add to, do you have yeah, awesome. So the theme of Bikers Summit in Helsinki will be extending lifespan. And the whole idea is that how do you move from just long lifespan to great and good health span? So how do you really improve your health and well-being? Because I don't think people really want to live long. They just want to enjoy their life and do what they love to do. And if you're functioning well in terms of an organism, then you have a lot to contribute to the world. And so long life is not panacea in its own, but it's really like what kind of life you're living in. And that's why we have all kinds of experts coming in from all around the world to talk about these things. And Finland has actually survived pretty nicely the coronavirus epidemic. So now suddenly it's not the Mediterranean, which is the popular travel destination in Europe, but it's the northern parts where there is less people, less face masks, less hand sanitizers, less of all these things that you actually need in extremely highly densely populated cities. So in our country, we are not enforcing these rules. These are recommendations in crowded areas. And the number of cases we have is very low, and that's why we are happy to have had many big events open. And if you're from the Baltic countries, if you are right now from Italy, you can travel to Finland just fine. There's some restrictions from some countries, and there is a recommendation to self-quarantine yourself for 14 days. We don't know how it's going to be in October, but Bikers Summit is definitely going to be the largest biking event happening this year. So you should definitely book your tickets, because if for any reason you can't come, you can always downgrade to a live stream ticket. You get a refund for the part that is related to the face-to-face physical event, and you just get the amazing recording package that we are producing anyway. So there is no risk really in there. If you want, you can always move your ticket to next year. We have the Biker Summit happening in Amsterdam, 7th and 8th of May. So if any government intervenes with our plans by giving restrictions of healthy people meeting each other, or if things get out of hand, there's always opportunity to join us for the Biker Summit as well in Helsinki, or any of the events we do in the next few years. I think the world is not going to get back to normal, but things are definitely going to change in a bit. And as humans, we find a way to deal with things. And this evening, I'm also recording an interview with Yarrow Willard, who is coming to Biker Summit to speak. And the topic will be, how do we reclaim our territory? So we have, I guess, lost our link to our territory, and that territory includes all these microorganisms that we interact with every day. So I want to ask you, Dr. Olli Sovier, how do you see this? We've seen this thing with antibiotics, and now we see this with the scare of bacteria or viruses. How are the measures that people are taking to fight COVID-19? Is that gonna backfire us, or what's gonna happen?
We don't know yet. So this is a huge global kind of experiment and new situation. We know a lot about external protection, but what we are also encouraging people to do is internal protection. So taking care of your immunity. So we need both. but the basic things people usually discuss is how do you use face masks, how do you keep distance, and which are good things, but it might go a little bit overboard. And we just had a good discussion with you, Teemu, about this too much disinfection. So if you, for example, disinfect your hands 20, 30 times per day, you are destroying the ecosystem in your hands, and it gives an opportunity for different kind of bacteria and fungi and yeast to grow. So we are a holobiont, which means that we are a compilation of different kind of biomes, whether it's a virome, microbiome, or fungiome. So having a privilege to live in Finland, where we have a good connection to nature, the population density is very low, and usually people go into summer cottages. We have our hands literally in the dirt. We do gardening and grow our own food, so we are probably the most connected to the nature of maybe even any country, at least in the Western world. So this is really, really important for us, and we can teach other people about this approach. So both internal, external approaches are critical to tackle this kind of pandemic.
Yeah. So if you want to jump into the conversation, you're welcome on biohack.to/chat. That takes you to our YouTube channel, and you can ask us any questions you would like. We don't want to focus on the pandemic or all that hand sanitizer stuff, but I read some pretty worrying research recently about the fact that they have linked atopic skin conditions and allergies to excess consumption of hand sanitizers. Like Olli said, I mean, it's a careful balance. If you have a life-threatening condition and something like antibiotics can save you, then it makes a lot of sense. Also, if you're going into, I guess, a metro or highly densely trafficked area, using hand sanitizer after that might make a lot of sense, or using it before you go in so that you don't spread potentially some germs in there. But in the end, like if you do that 20, 30 times per day, they have also figured out that when you are using ethanol or isopropyl alcohol-based products, they are causing DNA damage on the bacteria, and there is a slight opportunity for mutations to happen. If there is cell-to-cell connection, another species, another bacteria might actually jump some genes to the damaged bacterial genes, and maybe genes that are key for resistance to hand sanitizers, for example. So we are literally brewing super bacteria in our hands by overdoing this on a global experiment level. So just like we did with food chain, we overused antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals, whatever, antiparasitic things to grow crops. Now we have all these crazy like super bacteria in our food chain, and we're doing the same thing over and over again. If you're in a hospital that is highly, contentious area, probably using something like this all the time makes a lot of sense. So we have to balance things. We have to be more clever, more, I guess, with all these things like a face mask, for example. We have to realize that those have their place occasionally. It makes a lot of sense statistically and scientifically. It makes a lot of sense, but overdoing it, like I saw from US, there was a recommendation to use a face mask on online meetings. Imagine if we recommended everyone, watching this live from home, to use a face mask so that the germs don't spread. That would be a little bit too much, right? So there's a gentle balance, and I'm going to be talking about this with Yarrow Willard, who's master herbalist and definitely knows about the invisible ecosystem of allies that we work together, the bacteria and viruses and fungi that we interact with. Okay, let's jump into some questions because we don't have unlimited time. Let's change topic.
There is actually a question about that face mask thing.
You can take on it.
This is the last topic about this pandemic we can discuss. So I actually ordered a face mask that Formula 1 drivers use. I found it to be really interesting. It's a UMask Model 2, so it's reusable, it's self-sanitizing, it's even better than FFP3, totally protecting from COVID. But I'm not gonna use it unless I'm in a super crowded place where I know that there might be a possibility for contagion. I've seen people use face masks while they're driving their car. Online meetings, the common sense is lacking here. So you can use your own logic, your own common sense, and it's very clear. So, for example, I'm going tomorrow to actually Teemu's place via boat to Estonia. If there are a lot of people, then I'm using it in the crowded area or in the tunnel where we walk, if there are a lot of people. So in these kind of occasions, you want to have a good mask. But using it all the time, everywhere, is really not the worth or a right way of doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I understand that some countries have like criminal penalties of not using it in the public place, but I think we have to find, like, we can't live like this forever. Like there needs to be some common sense. And if there is no one around, why do you need a mask? It can grow all kinds of bacteria on your face.
Yeah. I still want to elaborate on this because I watch carefully all kinds of team sports. So I watch NBA basketball, and they are actually now playing in Orlando in the ESPN Sports Center, a huge bubble. So everybody is tested every time, like every day, for COVID-19. And some people are wearing masks, some are not. There is obviously no audience, just a virtual audience. The players are not wearing, but players sitting in the bench are wearing, and some are, some not. The interviewers are wearing, and it's kind of a mess. So there's really no logic there. And if everybody is tested, and it's a closed facility, so there's no possibility of even getting a virus or infection inside. So the common logic. This is what I recommend people to really think. Common logic.
Yeah, common logic. Now let's take a look at the chat if there is any awesome questions here.
And let's jump.
Do you have experience with polyphasic sleep? What do you think about power naps? So polyphasic sleep is basically a sleeping pattern where you are imitating what often animals do in nature, which is they don't sleep like 8 hours straight, but they sleep in phases. So polyphasic sleep. So there's multiple phases to the sleep pattern. And when you go to sleep, you get deep sleep in the first hours of the night, and then that converts to REM sleep. And the problem with polyphasic sleep is that you have to time it correctly, because when you are awake, there is also like certain, I guess, like increases and reductions in alertness and production of adenosine and so on. So it seems to be able to function properly, you have to really time it really well and sleep the correct amounts, which is either almost falling asleep or going a full sleep cycle, which is 90 minutes, and then being awake for a certain period of time and then going to sleep again. But it's super hard to align with, I guess, other people's schedules and working life and school. And I would argue, based on research, that there's probably long-term consequences of doing this. I spoke to a long-term meditator yesterday, and he said that his sleep quota went down after doing 1 hour meditation per day. I said that it could be that you get the deep sleep phases at night if you sleep 6 hours, and then you're actually, with this meditation practice, you are getting an equivalent amount of recovery, what you would get in the end of the night with REM sleep by going into deep meditative state. So it could be that if you're a long-term meditator, you can reduce your nightly sleep a little bit. There is another thing, which is inflammation. As your low-level inflammation goes down, and inflammatory biomarkers, you probably need less sleep also to recover. So that's why dietary interventions that are and lifestyle factors that lower inflammation are probably good. So if you have some kind of disease or you exercise a lot or something, then you might need a little bit more sleep. What do you think, Olli?
Exactly. So I can elaborate on my own experience. So I used to be kind of sleep deprived, doing ER shifts like all the time, and my circadian rhythm wasn't in
I
place.
guess like
So sleeping here and there, having night shifts, sleeping only like 5 hours per night, even in a regular night. Then I actually did biphasic sleeping, so I slept 5 hours during the night, which wasn't high quality sleep, and then I slept like 90 minutes in the day. It wasn't optimal, but of course I felt better, definitely better with that one sleep cycle, extra sleep cycle during the day. But I was kind of feeling like jet lagged all the time. So the circadian rhythms, the circadian alignment definitely wasn't there. So to my own experience and also science, having a regular sleep rhythm, for example, I have a really regular sleep rhythm at the moment, and I'm waking up like almost the same minute every day without an alarm clock, because I don't have any like early appointments. So that makes me feel the best, and usually it also gives you a better and sounder sleep, and you wake up refreshed. If your rhythm is like constantly changing, you're go to sleep, let's say like 11 p.m., then suddenly it's like 2 a.m. and you're messing up with the rhythm, it's causing problems. I wouldn't want to go into like polyphasic sleeps, even though it might sound technically doable, but due to these things that Teemu explained, like inflammation and stuff, it's really critical. And I find that if I get like a good period of sound sleep, it's even better if it's just 6 hours. But if I like sleep 8 hours, but I wake up multiple times throughout the night, I feel better having that 6 hours straight. And usually the deep sleep percentage is usually higher also.
Yeah, if you want to learn about all these biohacks for sleep to over 2 hours per night, there is an article about this on the biohackersummit.com blog. You can check it out there. Also, Ben Greenfield posted, I think, this guide on his blog. So if you search Olli Soivijärvi and deep sleep, you could probably find information about this. We have a lot of nice questions. Keep them coming. So let's keep our answers short. But before we jump into the next question, is Alex still there? Is Alex live? Alex.
Yes, I am. I'm just on mute.
You're on mute. So what are your kind of go-to biohacks, maybe top 3 biohacks that you do personally, like that you find most relevant, benefits from?
For me, it's I think it's mainly about morning routines, and I find that it's good to I spoke about this in major depth with Edward, who has like ninja level ninja level morning ritual.
You talk about Edward, who Edward?
Edward de Wilde, sorry. One of the European biohacker tribe authorities, etc.
Yeah, Live Healthy. Yeah.
livehealthy.com, and he's a certified bulletproof coach, and he has his morning routine is about 2 hours.
That's the same as mine.
Mainly, sorry,
I have about 2 hours or 1.5 hour.
Exactly. So when the day finishes, when your routine finishes, it's almost time to go to bed.
Yeah.
But that's my main one, is setting up the day on the right foot, because an amazing life is a series of amazing days, and an amazing day is an output of an amazing morning or wake up routine. So my main thing is trying to get out into sunlight as early as possible, and exercise, a healthy dose of meditation, and then kicking into whatever's going on.
That's perfect.
What about you, Teemu?
Well, I actually find a lot of useful benefits from red light if I have to be indoors, like there was a period of quarantine. So if if I can't get outside, I would use this. And here in the northern part of world, I mean, now it's super nice weather all this summer, but I'm not really looking forward to this long winter nights, and getting the right wavelengths of light is key. So this one is actually our product, the Biker Spotlight, you can get from bikercenter.com. And we have some new units coming along as well for this purpose. Let's see if I can
This
show
one
a
is
quick
really,
test on this.
This is epic.
This guy, it's the largest, definitely one of the largest red light panels on the market. So that's a big one. It's massive, as you can see. And so here you have the infrared range. You can see it, but it is as strong as the red one when I turn it on. The red one, those different wavelengths have different effects. But this is a huge panel we have here in the office. We have on top of low-level vibration bed, one of these units. I like to use noise-canceling headphones, some binaural beats, some of that low-level vibration going on in my body and my ears, and all those nice wavelengths hitting my body, maybe 30 minutes. And I this is the most regular routine that I have, and I usually meditate at that point. Somehow I need all this technology to, justify
You're the
30
expert.
minutes with myself.
Just to get out of bed.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the questions here. So, there's a pretty amazing question from Jura Bednar. How do you initiate different states of mind for different purposes? A map what these states are and how to get to them would be useful. Oh, wonderful question. Like, how do you initiate a state of focused creativity? How do you initiate a state of I guess like getting things done, doing routine work? How do you initiate a state of relaxation and so on? I think these are really skills of the future, 21st century skills, to be able to switch mindsets and states of mind in a way for different situations. And I think there is pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, electroceutical interventions that you can take also to influence your brain chemistry for these different situations. But what do you think, like, what are your ways? Because I know that you are the master of focusing on writing, for example. Like, how do you get into that state?
Practice makes perfect, of course, but this is really interesting because basically we have like 4 states throughout the day. So it's a basic like waking state. We have the REM state, dreaming state. We have the deep sleep states, and then we have like altered or meditative states. They can be kind of different, ranging from alpha waves to theta waves and even delta waves. So being able to change between these kind of states, I would also add in here gamma states, which is kind of like a higher frequency vibrational, really concentrative states. So you can play with these, as you mentioned, with different kind of technologies, but also practicing different kind of meditation techniques. But if I want to get myself, let's say, into a flow state where I'm highly concentrated, but I'm not like overly hyped. On the other hand, I'm not too relaxed. I usually use some kind of music, or what I love is the brain.fm, kind of like a soundscape creator web service or an app. So you can easily get different kind of brain waves and different kind of sounds to your exact needs, whether you want to focus or have a bit more relaxation or something in between. I of course combine meditative states also if I want to get into a deeper state. For example, I've been doing really long meditations, like 1.5 hours in the evening times these past maybe 3-4 weeks. And the Aura Ring is actually thinking that I'm sleeping in these stages, and I go like really deep. So there's definitely alpha and theta waves present in those stages. I haven't managed to get like deep sleep readings in these stages, because usually it means that the day consciousness kind of drifts off and you're not even in your body. But practicing different kind of meditative practices is the key here. Supplement wise, what I really like to play with is something that stimulates maybe a little bit of dopamine excretion, but not too much, because you can get overly hyped and then attending or getting into the flow state, it's not that doable. But also acetylcholine boosters, and they especially have an effect on the working memory and how you process things. So I've been playing around with different kind of nootropics, not any pharmaceuticals, but natural nootropics. And my favorite is the Qualia Mind, but I don't take the full dose. I only take like 1/7 of the dose, because that's enough for me. And one of the best things is, of course, what I usually have here also, so a microdose coffee and theanine throughout the day, and some caprolic acid to get the ketones flowing. So there are different kind of things. One thing to add, I like View Lights, this neurogamma device that you put on your head and in your nose. So that is something that's really giving power and also a certain kind of focus to your brain state.
Yeah, I like to use chocolate also. That
Yes.
works for me. This is the Baker's chocolate. Can't say much about chocolate other than good things. But theobromine seems to work for me as a pretty stable stimulant compared to caffeine alone. I have a really nice question here from India. Hello to India. Manu Tirani is asking, could you please recommend any ways to naturally reduce cholesterol and blood sugar? I'm 65-year-old grandmom from India. Until now, I'm not taking any medication. Okay. I have to first say that this is not medical advice. Consult your doctor, obviously. But off the record, berberine is one of the supplements that is naturally used to reduce blood sugar levels. Intermittent fasting, if you're not yet a diabetic, like if you have high blood sugar issues, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet might be helpful for reducing those things. Exercise obviously is a big one. What else do you want to add?
Well, of course, the basic diet. So I know that in India there's a lot of diabetics, and it's due to your food. So you're eating a lot of highly processed carbohydrates, which is creating a lot of like glucose and insulin spikes. So reducing dramatically the amount of carbohydrates and sugars in the diet is usually the first step. And at the same time, increasing micronutrient density, like magnesium, zinc, and so on. So they have a basic effect on the blood sugar regulation. So after making these fundamental changes, you can start playing around with different kind of, let's say, supplements and having intermittent fasting and so on. So what I really love, you mentioned berberine here. It's a really good one. It's actually, the effects are managed via the gut bacteria. So it's probably reducing these kind of bacteria that like to use glucose and have more like insulin spiking effects. And berberine, very good, but I like alpha lipoic acid because it activates the GLUT4 receptors in the cell, especially in the muscle cells. So even if you would eat carbohydrates, it would get more into the muscle instead of just changing it to triglycerides and then store it as fat. So alpha lipoic acid, and especially the R lipoic acid is a good one. Then of course a lot of like different kind of polyphenols, they all have an effect on the blood sugar management via the gut microbiota. So I would add a lot of different colors and different kind of polyphenols. For example, the chocolate, the raw chocolate that we mentioned here, is a really good one, but there's also dark berries like bilberry, which is actually in the same chocolate. It's a really good one also for blood sugar management. A lot of things you can take. Apple cider vinegar is one of the best before meal, let's say like 20 minutes before the meal. So it's been shown to really dampen the glucose fluctuation and elevations after the food. So
there's a handful there. I also like medicinal mushrooms, for example, Agaricus placei, it seems to be very effective. I also have some diabetic friends who just they rave on that one when they look at their reader. Emilia Lahti is commenting, good stuff. Emilia Lahti actually works on sisu. I guess the translation is like guts. Do you have guts? I don't think there is a direct translation of that.
It is a mythic term.
Yeah, it's a very mythic term. Finnish term sisu means basically that you're not giving up. You're pushing the boundaries. I think it's the best way to describe sisu is actually to talk about resilience. And our next book is
Grit.
is going to be about resilience, the sequel to Biohacker's Handbook. And I think resilience is what we need in these times. Definitely, we need some sisu in our lives, more of that stuff, not to give up. William Barella Costa, Biohacker Sami Teemu, on alcohol use. Don't you think that in balanced concentrations they can be helpful in socializing and balancing emotions, for example, in the case of kombucha? Yeah, absolutely. If you think of the human body, our body is actually adapted to process small amounts of acetaldehyde and alcohol in general. Because if you think of a fruit on the ground, it starts to ferment. Many fermented products like sauerkraut and kimchi are actually include some trace, and kombucha is a fermented product, also include trace amounts of alcohol, trace amounts of acetaldehyde. Yogurts also have trace amounts of acetaldehyde, sometimes pretty high levels also. That can be a little bit problematic. But in the end, our bodies are pretty good at processing alcohol in small quantities. And it can be, I guess, also a kind of hormetic stressor. So it stresses our body a little bit, you get stronger, but in very low amounts. If you go like crazy about it, then you're overloading your glutathione, and that burns out, and then you get things like liver damage and other problems from alcohol use. But my favorite way of using alcohol is in the form of tinctures and kombucha for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I could add that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love like biodynamic Demeter red wines. So I have these phases. Then I go like and find the best raw, unfiltered biodynamic red wines, and I might use them like every night, just at like 10 centiliters, so not even like a regular dose, but just for the taste, for the polyphenols, for some resveratrol and so on. And it's of course enjoyable, and you get a little bit of this GABA calming, relaxing effect. But then the feeling goes off. I don't want to use that, and then I have a break for maybe like a few months. And you should recycle whatever you're incorporating and using for your system. Of course, tinctures. I love wild reishi, wild chaga, and so on, as Teemu mentioned. So that's a perfect way to really microdose something good with the alcohol.
Okay, let's talk about more hormetic stressors. There's a question about EMF. What do you think about EMF from Donit? Do you think that can be harmful? I mean, it's kind of like with all kinds of things in nature that are potentially stressing your body. It could be solar radiation. It could be electromagnetic fields. It could be, rancid oils. It could be lack or increased amount of pathogens in your environment. It could be sleep deprivation. It could be, all kinds of things that are putting your nervous system and your body into a mode where it's fighting something. And many of these things make you stronger. But in the end, you don't want to go crazy about certain things. So I wouldn't sleep with my phone next to my ear if possible. But I'm not really that worried about, having a phone here on the table, for example. So it's, in the end, it's about balance. It's the same with face masks. It's the same with hand sanitizers. Like, I don't see it as kryptonite in low amounts, but increased amounts, yes. And I see a lot of people who are talking about and raving about things like EMF and say that it's the only thing you really need to focus on, protect. I think they're going a little bit crazy and overboard right there. And in most cases, these kind of people also neglect things like great diet. They might go straight away to McDonald's after saying that they're protecting themselves from EMF. So you want to be like consistent all the way if you're dealing with these kind of things. That's just my take. What do you think, Ole?
Exactly. So it's all about homeostasis. Of course, if you're like bombarded with a lot of EMF and you don't get the nature connection, you don't get the grounding. So in that sense, the protection might be usable, but it's all about finding the balance. Of course, for example, Ben Green has a lot of good material and about this particular topic, so how to really like protect yourself from any EMF, and he goes really far with this. So I'm not going that far, but I'm living kind of like in the middle of nature, and there's no 5G tower like next to my house, and overall our country is a bit more protectable in that sense, and we have a lot of nature, but having the balance between your own ecosystem and having the homeostasis at hand. So for example, the phone use, I wouldn't use the phone here and just radiate my brain, like keeping it like super close. So I like to talk like this, or have like a hand-free in the car and so on. So you can be wise on these matters, and I wouldn't use phone in my like front pocket, like very close to my testicles, because it's been shown it's actually harmful, and these kind of things that have been widely researched and proven that okay, these are not the best things to do. So definitely you should follow these things.
Absolutely. So I think it's about cumulative effect. So if you have a lot of stressors in your environment, EMF protection will help you definitely. But if you live in the middle of the nature, you get negative ions, you have a pretty relaxing and anti-stress environment. You work with bacteria in your environment and fungi and all that. Like, I think EMF is not going to kill you.
I'm a fun guy.
You're a very fun guy. So there's a question from Thomas Godber about coffee. Why so many biohackers use coffee? Isn't it good to try to gain optimum state instead through sleep, meditation, sauna, diet, instead of relying on caffeine? I think this is the same. We're kind of on the same line here, same thought here, that doing anything like or going overboard with anything is not very helpful. Like, you can really overdo caffeine, so it starts to backfire on you in terms of tolerance, in terms of alertness, in terms of your adenosine receptors, in terms of heart health. Low amounts of caffeine can be very beneficial for heart health. Huge amounts can be adverse. So some is good also for diabetes or blood sugar control, like tea. But then I would also maybe cycle different forms of caffeine, like sometimes drink tea instead of coffee, sometimes maybe have some matcha, maybe sometimes have some mate, maybe some guarana occasionally, like instead of just using one substance and overdoing it. So I think the whole fat-based coffee thing has gone overboard. I mean, I'm victim to it also occasionally, but I try to cycle it out occasionally to keep my system balanced. And I definitely agree with Thomas that sleep, meditation, sauna, diet, those are the cornerstones, not like drinking some kind of upper or some kind of stimulant all the time.
Yeah, exactly. How I see this is that it's not either or, it's always both. So having the foundation very clear, and then you can play with coffee and see what actually works for you. So I'm quite, for example, myself, quite sensitive to caffeine, so I can only drink like 2 doses per day, and it's in a very wide spectrum, like in 8-hour period. If I do it like straight away, I get too stimulated, and there's a drop to that. So I don't really want that. And some days I might only just take 1 cup, and even days that I don't take at all. So having the balance for yourself, and the cutoff point with caffeine and the coffee especially has been found to be 3 cups for the benefits. So after that, it's going to be more disadvantage to your health. So it's always having the best dose ratio for the health benefits, and of course finding out what you shooting for your own genetic makeup.
Yeah. There's a question about vibration plates. I just saw Olli using one just before coming here. Yeah. I think you were using the push-up things, like on top of it. So what are the benefits of a vibration plate?
I like it I like to use it during my micro breaks throughout my day. Like in every 30 minutes, I'm there about 45 seconds to 60 seconds. The equivalence is that if you would go to a 10-minute walk to be 1 minute on the vibration plate, so you get this vertical vibration to your cells throughout the whole body. And for me, it's to have some movement. If, for example, I'm sitting or even standing, I like to have some movement, that it's keeping my brain also more fresh. Then you can also work out on the vibration plate. So, for example, boosting growth hormone has been found to be on hertz, like the wave frequency about 30 to 35 hertz. So, for example, when I do strength workouts back at home, I use the X3 bar on the vibration plate, and I've been found that to be like really engaging, really affecting for the whole body, not just the superficial muscles, but also the deep muscles in the body which control the posture. So there's a lot of benefits, of course, metabolic benefits. So if you think that you're sitting 60 minutes straight, it's really diminishing your metabolic rate. But if you every now and then go into vibration plate, it's really like cutting off that.
Yeah. I want to remind you, if you want to ask any questions, go to biohack.to/chat. Takes you on our YouTube channel, Biker Summit. Please subscribe if you're right there. And there's going to be a lot of interesting content coming up. We have the Biker Summit in Helsinki, Finland on 16 and 17 October. We also sell online participation. If you feel you can't come over, you can, this is probably the best investment in your health by joining in remotely. It's a huge production that we're working on right now. And extending lifespans in these times is definitely a kind of a key thing. And I think one of the kind of things that I definitely personally do to extend my lifespan in a way is to manage my stress levels in different ways. To manage also my heart rate in certain ways. Like if you're using stimulants all the time, you're probably speeding up your heart rate, and your heart is a mechanical thing in the end that wears out over time. It's a huge problem, like stiffening of the intracellular matrix. There is many things that we can't deal with yet. So spending more time in meditation, maybe in a fasted state, not speeding up time, but slowing time. It's actually slowing your heart rate is probably one of the best things. To walk in nature.
Slow your breath rate.
Yeah, slow your breath rate. Work in harmonious interactions. Work in a resonant work from a resonant place, resonate with things. And I think that is what brings your system to balance in a way. And these times with coronavirus, we have to remember how to keep that balance, even in times of difficulty, even with times of uncertainty. Like, how do you bring yourself back to this very moment? I think that's where longevity really comes from for many, is just to be able to spend more time in flow, more time in the present moment, not worry about the future. And this is what comes out from the research.
Also social.
Centurions. Social.
We are social beings, so the blue zoners who have been found to live like the longest on Earth, these kind of specific populations. So social eating, the social aspect is hugely critical. So as Teemu mentioned that in the beginning of the show, I'm also missing like these speaking engagements, meeting new people and just being with people. So in that sense, this summit is a really nice thing to happen, and I'm really looking forward to meeting all people and having a good like a social circle, entourage, however you want to call it, is really critical for the health. On the other hand, as you mentioned, the extracellular matrix stiffness. So this is something that's been popping up to my consciousness lately, and that is a hot new topic on actually the body getting older and it causing a lot of different kind of things. So I think we're going to be hearing good talks and good discussion about this matter also. So if your body goes really stiff, your mind goes stiff, and you are going to age a lot faster.
Yeah, don't be too stiff. from wrong places. I think we have Siim Land jumping in. So our friend Siim just wrote a book, Stronger by Stress, and he wrote also previously the book Metabolic Autophagy. So he's a top expert on intermittent fasting, cyclical ketogenic diets, and stress management. So how are you doing, Siim?
I'm doing really good. It's a quiet summer afternoon, and yeah, I'm just enjoying the kind of lockdown as long as it lasts.
Okay. How's your new book? So we still haven't received that, but it looks massive, and you sent it to me, and I have to say I didn't read all that, about 600 pages, but I skimmed it through, and it's really fundamental.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, well, it is pretty comprehensive in a way. It kind of covers everything related to this idea behind hormesis and stress adaptations, of how do these different small amounts of stressors and activities can actually have a positive benefit on the body. And yeah, it's a very a holistic approach of how do you balance this this hardcore stressor which we get exposed to, like in a sauna or like in a ice bath, with a recovery which has to do with sleep and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's more of a balance of how do you find how do you leverage the beneficial sides of stress without necessarily becoming overburdened by it.
And you're also coming to the Biohacker Summit. And,
absolutely.
Your new book and the older book, the Metabolic Autophagy, is also going to be there to be seen. So a lot of great stuff. We are having these massive books coming out. The Biohacker's Handbook, of course, but Ben Greenfield's The Boundless book, which is 650 pages, and now your Stronger by Stress book. So really, really great information out there.
Yeah. Together with Siim, we also wrote the Biker's Flu Guide in springtime. If you haven't checked that out yet, go to bikercenter.com, check out the Biker's Flu Guide. We also have an online course for more natural ways of dealing with these things. But your island was the one that was first locked down in Estonia. Estonia, super remote place. You would think that's the best place to be. But your island was had the big epidemic because of some Italian football players or something that came in there, and you were locked down.
Volleyball.
Was it for months? And I think you just done better. Your muscles seem to be growing more, and you're really biohacking yourself out of this. So what are the main things you have focused on now that you have been locked down in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of an ocean, basically?
Yeah. Well, it's quite funny to think about that. I was, when I was first hearing about the stories from China of this beginning of the pandemic, then I was thinking that my island would be the last place on earth where this virus could come. And funny enough, boom, and it popped out from there, which kind of goes to show that you can't really control these negative events, and you can't control the outside world. You can only be prepared to them in advance. And fortunately, I wasn't really negatively affected by this at all. My daily routines didn't change much at all, aside from maybe I didn't go into public places that often, but generally I was still doing the same things that I'm always doing. I'm doing daily walks in nature, getting some sunlight. I do sauna quite regularly, almost every day. I do cold exposure, take a cold shower, ice bath. I do intermittent fasting every day. And I don't eat a bunch of sugar and carbs. I keep my diet relatively low carb, and I exercise on a regular basis, and of course sleep as well. So all the fundamentals are in place, and those are, I think, the most effective ones to focus on as well when it comes to strengthening the immune system and just staying healthy wherever you are.
You're really walking the talk. So seems good example of walking library, but also walking biohacking machine. And if you're not familiar with Siim's YouTube page or account, it's really informative. And I think you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos, and you just passed over 1,000
100,000.
100,000 subscribers, which is a really good achievement. And actually, Seam's podcast is one of my favorites on biohacking because the material and the quality is so high.
I remember when Seam first came to Biohacker Summit, there was this bright young guy with his, I guess, GoPro camera, like doing a lot of great content. You made a great video, and I've been following you since, and your wealth of information. You were on the Dave Asprey podcast recently on, you're all over the place now. And great inspiration for people out there. There's Donit is asking about cold showers in the morning. Like, what's your protocol? Like, how many minutes you do? How do you do that? How do you do cold plunges?
Seam.
Well, I usually maybe I don't do it like every day because I think it's a good idea to kind of not expose yourself to the same stimulus all the time. So I do like maybe I would say every other day I would do like a cold shower or like a cold bath or a cold tub. And usually that's going to last for maybe a few minutes. So I'm not like really pushing it hard. I'm not trying to make a record or something. I'm just trying to give my body some sort of a small shiver, so to say. So I would trigger this shivering thermogenesis and experience the cold. And usually that's gonna take for about 2 minutes. Like 1 minute is probably like a good, because like once you get into the cold, then like the immediate response is to kind of tense up and start to shiver and start to breathe really rapidly. But after you're gonna get over this initial barrier, then it actually gets really enjoyable and you start to really enjoy it. So at that point, once you cross that barrier, then it's like, I want to stay here for longer and I actually want to do it for longer. So yeah, like I usually do it for 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling it. But if I'm doing it like with the sauna, then I'll do like several rounds. Like I'll do the sauna for 15 to 20 minutes, then I'll go to the cold plunge for about again 2 minutes or something, and then I'll repeat it for maybe 2 to 3 rounds. And
So
like
it's a workout. I would say it is a workout because the metabolic and physiological effects you get from that they're immense. This is good advice that you don't want to do the same things like all the time, the same way. So your body is really adapting to everything you give it. So you kind of want to change the things. So this is also why I think like seasonal approach is really advisable. So for example, in the winter time, you want to do more of these cold plunges, ice swimming plunges, because you want to create more of that brown fat because it's keeping you more warm. In the summertime, it's you don't really need that, especially if it's warm. So there are certain practices that you should change seasonally. So what's your take on this, Seam?
Yeah, of course. I also believe that some seasonality is appropriate, and I don't follow any sort of like seasonal eating. Like that's also like some idea that you should be eating only like these foods that are found in your vicinities, like in your local environment. I don't think that's like a huge influential factor, but I do like pay attention to things like if it's like the summertime, then I'll naturally try to spend more time outside to get more vitamin D, so that I would have like my vitamin D reserve topped off for the coming winter, so to say, because like in Estonia and Finland, there's not that much sunlight in the winter months. So kind of naturally would want to spend more time outside during the summer months. And on the contrary, like doing cold exposure is more easy during the winter months, because we have like a bunch of snow, we have like cold water, ice, and the temperatures are really low. So it's like you can just go outside and you can get your own like cryo chamber. You don't have to go into some fancy facility. You can just sit in the snow for a few minutes and you already get effects. So yeah, like, there is like natural like synchronicity or this cycling already happening because of the environment. But the biggest thing that I notice is probably like sleep. Like during the summer months, I do notice that I sleep less because of like there's more daylight, so to say. Whereas in the winter months, there's more dark, and I'll just naturally sleep longer because of that as well. But yeah, that's the biggest seasonality that I notice.
Is Alex still there? Maybe. Are you there? Is he gone?
talk to me. Yes,
No,
I am.
he's there. So you're in Dubai. How's your cold plunges going on?
Yeah, they're not really in the routine actually. I've done a couple of cryo sessions. My friend has a cryotherapy company, but it's not a daily habit.
It's funny that here in Finland I long for sunlight, and you guys have plenty of sunlight. You're longing for winter and darkness, maybe some ice plunges.
Let's switch that
Yeah,
in the winter
yeah.
Grass
time.
is always greener.
Yeah.
I hope the travel opens up soon enough so that we can start doing this. But this summer, I mean, it's pretty bright. I've used the Biohacker's blue light blocking glasses, so we just stocked up on some of these glasses, and it basically blocks blue wavelength of light, and yeah, fresh out of a box. So
This is
these,
really advisable, especially on the summer times, and
Yeah.
especially in Finland, because the sun is actually not setting in the midsummer in Lapland, for example. So
I totally lost
hard
my
to sleep.
circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
My circadian rhythm was totally mess. This summer I was going to
You're a
sleep
mess.
around 4 or 5 a.m. I guess
It is easy to.
I'm back now, and I feel
Yeah.
much better. Like I have better schedule now, sleep schedule.
Yeah, but this helps to like darken your eyes, so you get the melatonin production more easily going. So this is I think this is kind of a unique problem to latitude that we are living, especially in the summertime, because it's so bright. It's midnight and still like I would say sunny, but it's very bright. So going into sleep, the following your own like circadian biology, circadian rhythms might be a little bit more challenging. But as Siim said, then again, we don't need as much sleep. So
Olga Vieru is commenting that the flu guide is brilliant. Thanks for sharing. Heart.
thank you.
Thank you. We have the Russian edition, we have the Estonian edition, the Finnish one, and the English one, so you can pick your language right there. Donit is asking several questions here. He's pretty active. He's asking about vascular occlusion training, basically blood flow restriction. I know that Olli does that with vibration plate and X3 bar, some resistance bands. He likes blood flow restriction. I
Yeah.
know that Siim is also doing it. That's one question. The other one is, how do you keep up with sufficient amount of muscle regeneration from resistance training despite doing intermittent fasting and not eating protein throughout the day?
Siim, go.
What do you see him saying?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. So to say that fasting itself isn't going to make you build muscle. So to say it doesn't have, you don't have the building blocks to trigger muscle protein synthesis. And but at the same time, like you can still do some form of intermittent fasting and still end up building muscle. So what's the determining factor is the balance between your daily muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. So if you're building up more muscle than you break down, then your body is going to end up building muscle, and vice versa. If you're breaking down more than you're building, then you're going to lose muscle. So one of the biggest problems that people just come across with fasting is that they're under-eating protein. So they're not eating enough protein to increase the positive balance of their daily protein synthesis. So that's one of the first things that you should just pay attention to. Like if you're doing fasting, then you shouldn't want to eat like a low protein diet, because your body would actually benefit from the increased protein intake to compensate for the fasting period where your body is catabolic, so to say. And of course, if you're finding trouble with like let's say like how much protein you should eat, well, the like overall RDA for protein is pretty low. It's like 0.4 grams per pound of body weight, which is just for your bare survival. It doesn't really help you to build additional muscle. But optimally for the higher intake of protein would be like 0.8 grams per pound of body weight up until 1.0 grams per pound of body weight. And that's the research shows that that's like the upper threshold after which you don't see like any additional benefit. So I would aim for like around that zone, like 0.8 to 1.0 gram per pound of body weight for daily protein intake. And you can dissect it into like multiple meals. Most people who do intermittent fasting, they eat like 2 meals. So you can just, divide your daily protein intake into those 2 meals, and you will then stimulate the growth, or you will stimulate muscle protein synthesis within those meals. So you need approximately like 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal to stimulate or to maximize the effects of muscle protein synthesis. So that's the minimal effect, the minimal amount of protein I would aim for per meal. And just eating more frequently would stimulate that protein synthesis more frequently as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't build muscle. You're just doing it at a slower rate. So
what's your favorite sources of protein for carnivore, and what is your favorite source for vegan?
Yeah, well, like the carnivore animal proteins, the best source for that would probably be some eggs and meat. So eggs have all the amino acids, and they also have the anabolic amino acid leucine that is most responsible for triggering muscle protein synthesis. So eggs are great, as well as some meat. That's a good combo for anyone who is doing a carnivore, keto, low carb, paleo, or omnivore diet. So that will be the prime protein sources for that. But of course, fish and chicken and those things are also fine for animal sources of protein. And for plant sources of protein, generally, if I were a plant-based eater, I would eat I would use maybe some sort of a protein powder, like hemp protein or pea protein. So the difference between animal protein and plant protein is that you would need to slightly increase the protein intake on a plant-based diet just to reach that same effect of muscle protein synthesis. So it's slightly harder to reach that threshold, but it's still possible. You just have to maybe get more protein, and recommend it's maybe recommended for supplementing some deficiencies for that. But general whole food sources, I would like to eat some maybe legumes and beans. Those are great sources of protein for plant-based sources, as well as hemp protein and pea protein.
Oh, that's wonderful advice. Thank you. So, is there more questions here on the chat?
The one was with the blood flow restriction.
Oh yeah, sorry, we didn't answer that one. Jump into it.
About the previous question, so I would add in essential amino acids, because they're highly digestible and they're just amino acids, and you can use them. But of course, if you're a strict vegan, you might wonder where does it come from. But there are also plant-based essential amino acid products, and there was a researcher on Ben Griffin podcast who talked about vegans and even vegetarians and their lack of the essential amino acids. So he proposed, based on his experience and research, that almost 100% of vegans at least are some form of deficient on essential amino acids. So this is also meaning that they are not broken down in the gut so efficiently. So we can talk also about the biological value of different proteins. So as Siim mentioned, their eggs and meat are of the highest value for biological value for protein. Of course, whey protein is also very high, but it doesn't suit for everybody based on gut-related problems. But for example, for me, adding in the essential amino acids to my diet as a supplement, 20 to 40 grams per day, when exercising, I've found to be really effective on especially muscle protein synthesis.
Wonderful. We still have opportunity for a few questions. We have to end in maybe 10 minutes. So you can go to biohacking.to/chat if you have any questions, and you can jump on our YouTube channel. And
the blood flow restriction, so Siim has been doing it a little bit longer time than I have. So I actually kind of got inspired from you also, but also from Ben, and now I've been using it about maybe 3 months with the X3 bar, and it is a totally new game. It's this the signal, the anabolic signal, and the stimulus you get from that. It's just insane. But I think you have even better scientific knowledge and information about why would anyone use blood flow restriction while doing strength training.
Yeah, well, blood flow restriction training is a really I believe, yeah, sort of like a really game-changing technology, so to say, that can be very effective for treating like injuries as well as using or like working out in a very limited setting. So to say, so if you don't have access to heavy weights or you don't have access to a gym, then you can really easily mimic a heavier workout with these blood flow restriction bands. And essentially what you're doing is kind of restricting some of the blood flow to the extremities, and then your body kind of, but your body thinks it's actually lifting heavier weights than it actually is because of the restriction in blood flow, and it responds by just triggering certain growth factors like VEGF, which is like a growth factor for the blood vessels, and it's really good for blood flow and improving cardiovascular functioning, and just improving recovery and increasing, oxygenation of the tissues. So yeah, you get like a really cool effect in terms of promoting more like cell swelling and directing blood flow into these regions that you're working out with. And some research actually sees that you can use those blood flow restriction bands to get the same like anabolic signal as you would with lifting like 70 to 80% of your 1 repetition maximum, but you can achieve that same effect by doing like a 20 to 30% of your 1 repetition maximum if you're using the blood flow restriction bands. So yeah, like you're basically tricking your body into thinking that it's lifting heavier weights, and it's not like that stressful on the joints and bones either. You're not putting that much, heavy loads on the tendons. You can just get the same response with less effort, or it's still like a good workout. It's still hard, like you still get a good sweat on.
We're a little bit of losing your connection.
Heavy weight on your joints and tendons, so that's like really, especially, yeah.
Yeah, it's you're back.
Okay.
You're back. You just sounded like they disconnected your island from the internet completely. But anyway, like that's great advice for anyone who is an older person, maybe has some joint problems and so on. So try out some blood flow restriction thing or resistance bands or even vibration plates. So those are all great actually from aging perspective to keep up your muscle mass and exercise without destroying your joints. You may want to try these in a pool even. Maybe make an ice bath, take your X3 bar in there, a vibration plate. Hopefully it's waterproof.
Electricity.
And do some blood flow restriction and electricity into the water. Don't do this at home. No. We like all these biohacking stacks, like how you bring all different biohacks together and get compound effects and benefits. Now, I want to ask everyone who's in the call now, because we're going to kind of come to the end of this. If you're interested to hear more of these kind of shows, we have 31st of August. We have the Health Hacking Summit, Biohack Your Work. We focus with over 30 specialists on how you can optimize your day in terms of work remotely in these times. Very useful information. We have a lot of great best-selling authors joining us, and top management experts and ergonomic specialists and so joining us for that one. And we have the Biohacker Summit in Helsinki, 16 and 17 of October. It's going to be the only biohacking conference in this year that I know of. Most everything is cancelled, but we're happy to be in Finland where the pandemic is not as a big thing now. So you're most welcome. But everyone in the call, give us what is the biohack that you're paying attention to right now, what you've been interested in maybe doing yourself, kind of that you're excited about. We can start with Olli.
Probably it is these long meditations in the evening. So I kind of gravitated to this during my summer holidays when I had more time available, and I was kind of processing different kind of emotional patterns and really working on myself. So I began doing these long meditations, and I found them to be really helpful, not just emotional and cognitive processes, but also like the relaxating effects for the whole system and a better recovery. So this is something I've been doing a lot more. And also I've been engaging even more my hands on the dirt, meaning that I'm actually picking up fresh potatoes. I have like the most amazing tasting potatoes on my home like garden, and different kind of herbs and spices and salads. So trying to be as much also in the nature, barefooted, and really paying attention to these kind of things, to be in the natural environment. So these two things have been the last maybe a month the most important things for me.
How about Alex? What's your
Yeah.
thing going on right now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My main recent hack has also been around meditation. I'm building a virtual reality meditation app, and I've found that it's my favorite way to meditate at the moment. It's a kind of guided mindfulness meditation inside different 360 scenes. Some of them are nature. You can meditate flying around in space, between stars, in orbit. There's one like by a wormhole, mathematical representation of a wormhole. And the whole idea is to not get distracted by the stuff that you see, but just empty the mind and be mindful. And that's my favorite thing at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. A lot of meditation going on. I think Seem already left. Olli also walked out of the door. There's some family things
still
going
here.
on. So is Seem still there? No?
Yes, I am.
Oh, he is. He's there.
I came back.
Okay. So how about Seem? What's your top of the game right now?
Well, like recently I've been focusing a lot more on like the sauna and heat adaptation. So like just because of writing a book, you got more motivated to try to really, take it, try to improve it just beyond, health and that sort of thing. So I've been trying to see like how adaptable can I get to like these hard, hot environments, and just been trying to increase the temperatures and trying to do like longer sauna sessions to see to like what's gonna happen. And so far it's been great. Like I feel awesome, and taking a sauna on a regular basis is one of the best things I think for like overall health and just vitality. So even if you don't do it like for the sake of just trying to see how adaptable you can get to the heat, is still even like the milder temperatures themselves are also like very beneficial.
Yeah. Talking about sauna hacks, one of my favorite things to do is actually also sauna. And what I like to do when I get to the sauna, I lie down on my back and I put my hands and my feet straight up in the air. And I try to heat my peripheries first, like my hands and feet, because that really pushes your core more in terms of heat alteration. And what I like to do in that state is actually a kind of a stretch where I stretch my hands outside and my thumbs towards my face while I try to push up. And I do the same with my legs, and that basically lengthens and stretches the whole fascia line throughout the body. And that's my kind of way of really relaxing my back and my whole body, of sitting quite long in different kind of meetings and online meetings and stuff like that, being indoors. And the other thing that I like to do right after the sauna is to use a massage hammer. So that device is pretty amazing after a sauna. So once you warmed up and relaxed your muscles, you use a massage hammer, and maybe you can combine that with a red light. You could, use some kind of vasodilator, niacin, or maybe chili or chocolate. Oh, here's my. I get some help here. So here's my massage hammer, basically, that I'm using. So this is pretty good thing for a stiff neck or a head. Probably not very easy to show how this thing works, but definitely the neck area is what I like to do after sitting. And yeah, that's my thing that I've been doing quite regularly recently. But I guess like here we are, like in the end of this Q&A session. If you liked what we did, please, you're welcome to throw us a comment, throw us a shout on one of those channels if you found this helpful. There's going to be more at healthhackingsummit.com in the end of the month, Biohacker Summit in October, mid-October. And yeah, our studio is actually pretty nicely set up. I have Eetu behind the decks controlling the whole session. This testing went really well. We had remote guests. We had Olli here in the studio in front of green screen, me here. We have a chat, our attendees. So we're going to do these kind of live streams more and more in the future because that, I guess, where the world is moving more towards too. And yeah, so if you have any people who you want us to interview for our live shows or for our online events, feel free to tell us in the comments, like who should come on. And with that, I wish you a very healthy rest of the week. Stay safe. Remember to take care of the people around you and also the invisible non-human things like bacteria and fungi and viruses in the environment. They'll need your love too. And with that, thank you very much for all of this. I'm going to do an interview later today with Yarrow Willard, the master herbalist from Canada. I really miss that guy. He's been several times speaking at the Biohacker Summit. He's coming also to Finland this October. So with that, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. It was a lot of fun. It's always cool. And stay safe, stay healthy, be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.